Okay, but this reviewer, this actual human being typed this, who knew I'd want a 42-year-old to ram into my asshole so badly. Followed by, get this, bark, 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 bark. Who says that about a book?
Must we start with the absolute dregs of internet commentary? Can we not, for once, establish a baseline of literary context before diving headfirst into the cesspit? This is fan service by Rosie Danan, contemporary romance novel exploring
A washed up TV werewolf, thinking he's actually turning into a werewolf. And the only person he calls is the girl who runs his fan wiki. It's not exploring. It's a cry for help wrapped in a rom-com. The author probably wrote this after a bad con experience, and too much cheap wine.
While the premise is heightened, shall we say, Danan is clearly using the lycanthropy as a metaphor for Devin Ashwood's loss of control. His fading identity post, fame, and the primal urges he suppressed during his meticulously curated Hollywood career. It's about confronting the beast within.
The beast within his pants, maybe. Let's talk characters. Alex Lawson, 34, vet tech, covered in tattoos, runs the fan wiki for the Arcane Files, which sounds like the saddest show ever. By the way, she's held a grudge against Devin for 17 years because he was rude to her once. 17.
A testament to the lasting impact of careless cruelty, particularly from figures we admire. It speaks to the parasocial dynamics.
Oh, please. She's a doormat. A walking, talking fan comment section. 1 minute she hates his guts. The next she's playing werewolf consultant, using fake TV show rules. Get some self-respect. Alex. It's like you with that. Awful protagonist. From the Gilded Sparrow. You defended him. Even after he literally set fire to the orphanage.
That was arson for a reason. It symbolized the burning away of societal constraints. Completely different. Alex's journey is about reconciliation, both with Devin and her own past fandom enthusiasm. Devin Ashwood, on the other hand, 42, clinging to his werewolf detective fame like a life raft, he is initially presented as deeply unlikable, egotistical, self-centered.
A zaddy. Some reviewer called him a zaddy. Is he even old enough to be a zaddy? Isn't that like 50 plus? And reviewers hated him. Called him a himbo adachi, an airhead. But then they're like, oh, but underneath he's a cinnamon roll. Make up your minds, people. Is he a jerk or a golden retriever who occasionally grows fangs? And honestly, if my boyfriend started howling and sprouting claws, I wouldn't be checking a fan wiki. I'd be calling animal control and a divorce lawyer.
You see, you are engaging with the central conflict, the dichotomy of his personality, the absurdity of the situation. That's the engine of the narrative, though I concede diagnosing him based on fictional lore is questionable. It stretches credulity.
Stretches credulity. The man wakes up, naked in the woods, thinking he's turning into teen. Wolf's embarrassing dad. We passed credulity about 50 pages back. And the fans, the obsession. Is fandom just a place where people who need therapy go to write weird things online? Bark, bark, bark. Person.
Must you keep returning to that specific, deeply unsettling comment?
It's memorable. So, is this book actually good? Or is it just fan fiction someone accidentally published? Because the reviews are all over the place. Some say it's hilarious. A love letter to fandom. Others say it's slow, disjointed. And Alex forgives Devin way too fast.
It has the exploration of fandom culture, while occasionally veering into the absurd, touches upon the sense of community and identity it can provide. Some of the dialogue is sharp. However, the central premise requires a significant suspension of disbelief, even for the genre, and the pacing does lag in the middle third.
Lag. People were complaining about the spice. or lack thereof. One reviewer, and I quote, was very upset about the no nodding. Do you know what nodding is in werewolf lore?
Have a vague and frankly disturbing understanding based on context, yes? And the fact that readers are discussing the anatomical specifics of mythical creature intercourse tells you everything you need to know about the target audience.
Hey, don't kink shame the werewolf lovers. But seriously, people cried over this book. Cried. Over a guy who thinks he's turning into a monster from that sounds like Supernatural's rejected pilot script. And the references Teen Wolf, Vampire Diaries. It's like a checklist for people who spent too much time online years ago.
The intertextuality is dense, perhaps overly so. It risks alienating readers unfamiliar with the specific cultural touchstones. It's less Notting Hill and more Notting Hill if Hugh Grant thought he was turning into Hugh Jackman from Van Helsing and Julia Roberts ran his old internet fan page.
Okay, that's actually pretty good at you. You get it sometimes. So, if Devin Ashwood were a sandwich, what would he be?
That is utterly irrelevant. We are discussing a novel, not deli meats.
Fine. He'd be a sad, slightly stale croissant, trying desperately to convince everyone it's still flaky. Alex is maybe a weirdly specific artisanal jam that only 3 people appreciate.
This is why we can't have nice things. All right, rating time. Before you give it something obscene,
I give fan service 4 out of 5 on Hinged reviewer comments. It was a mess, Devin's a mess, Alex needs therapy. But honestly, I couldn't look away. Bark, bark, bark.
I'm giving it 6 out of 10 reasons fandom both fascinates and terrifies me. It's conceptually ambitious but tonally inconsistent. Read it if you enjoy celebrity meltdowns and don't mind plot holes the size of a werewolf.
So you kind of liked it, after all that complaining. Typical.
I appreciated the attempt. There's a difference.
Whatever. Next week, folks, we're tackling the sentient toaster. Oven who stole my heart and my bagel. Sounds deep.
Kill me now. You've been listening to Heartbook Radio. Try not to turn into anything mythical before next week.